Welcome once again to the Polity, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of Kaftan TV. Now, as usual, we'll bring to you discussion on politics and governance. It's less than 20 days to the general elections, less than 18 days or thereabouts to the elections, where we'll be having a new government or a chance for a new government after 8 years of the current president as administration, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, a lot has been said already, but we always like to start the program with some advocacy for more participation in politics. And specifically, we like to draw attention to the fact that not only the presidency is the presidency is not the only position that is being contested at the moment. You're more likely to have a very direct impact from some of the other positions that are up for grabs, including the House of Reps, the Senate, the House of Assembly, the governorship. These might have more direct impact on your quality of life as a Nigerian. So do pay more attention to that, and we'll do our best to always bring to you the candidates and the representatives of various parties so you get to know what they have in store for you. Welcome once again. I am Amadou Nobari. Now we'll go straight into the conversation. Today we're talking about what is referred to, or what we know as the two leading parties in the country. We had the PDP, who were in power for 16 years, and now we have the current government, the APC, who are about rounding up 8 years in power after unseating the PDP. Now, going into the elections on February 25th, they are still called the favorites by many to clinch the top spot and many others. So I've been joined in the studio by two guests to analyze the momentum of their campaigns so far as the elections or the campaigns are in their last lap. For the PDP, I have to my right Mr. Ose Anene. He is the Deputy Director, Polling, PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Now to my left, I have Mr. Ali Ali. He's the Deputy Director, Media and Publicity, APC. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Well, it's good to be here.
Glad to be here as always.
We have two deputies, reminds me of the sheriff in the year. So we have a deputy sheriff.
It's about a quick draw now, I guess. But anyway, so let's go into it. We'll start with the ruling party, obviously, because you are the ones in control at the moment. Now, we'll start with the biggest issue, the elephant in the room, the alleged rift in the party between the presidential candidate and the president or the presidency or some within the presidency. Now, we'll start with a little bit of a backstory of an event or a campaign at in Ogun State where your candidate, the APC presidential candidate, made statements about some persons, he didn't mention names, who he said even if they hoard Naira or hoard the fuel, he would make it. And then following that, a series of comments came from other persons within the party. We had FFK, former minister. We have the youth leader who said something very interesting about how in the past things were not this hard, especially around December, I think he said, or around elections, and that there was some sort of sabotage ongoing. And then fairly recently, we have the Kaduna State governor saying that there is a cabal in Aso Rock who do not favor the APC to continue due to the choice of candidates. And fast forward, the issues including Naira redesign and all that. Now we have, earlier today, some hours ago, the Supreme Court made a ruling basically stopping the ban of old notes. And we're seeing that it's been met with positive reviews from some persons, particularly the campaign. So what's really going on? Is there truly a rift? What has happened in the APC?
Well, thank you very much, Amadou, for that question. And I think it's very timely. And people like me will never get tired of saying repeatedly. And for the upturn time, there is no rift between President Muhammadu Buhari and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC. What people say as rift actually is their own understanding of the very complex labyrinthine politics in the presidency, which each time the presidential candidates speak out is making reference, but which people misinterpret and wrongly that is an attack on the president, and there is a rift, which I want to state again and again, there is no rift between Buhari and Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, but what clearly has come to the fore is that there exists a shadowy cabal in the presidency, which the governor of Kaduna State, being the maverick that he is, did not shy away from actually bringing to the fore again. And this shadowy cabal, which has assumed certain, up to this moment, features, which some more daring elements have even named names. Now, like the woman who defected to the PDP from the APC, she went on naming spree and named certain names in the presidency. Now, this cabal is actually, like the governor of Kaduna State pointed out, they had a candidate in the APC primary who came short. He did not make it, and he said, and rightly so, that they are actually not even members of the APC. They are merely power brokers, influence peddlers, who are domiciled in the presidency. They may not have, actually resident there, but they have some foothold, according to the governor of Kaduna State. And he went a step further, unlike the presidential candidate of the APC, who made this allusion. Don't forget, even before the primaries, when it became clear that there wasn't going to be a level playing field, he went to Abeokuta before the recent Abeokuta strong expression of resentment against some people who are hoarding fuel, and then bringing this very largely unwelcome. Well, we welcome the Naira design, but what we don't welcome is the window given for people to swap the currency. And this is what he expressed, and which people are, like I said from the onset, people are mistaken for a rift between him and the president. And thankfully, look at what the president said in the campaign, first in Nasarawa Lafia, in Lafia, Nasarawa State. Said, look, Asuwaju, vote for Asuwaju. He's been my friend in the last 20 years. So, I wonder, when people dwell on this rift, I wonder what rift there is. No rift whatsoever. And as for the policy, which we welcome it, we've said it, but what we do not welcome is the timing and the limited window, 2-3 months, and the apparent shortage of this currency. Only before I got to the studio, I have received SOS calls that, look, in some states, in Kano, for example, the Naira notes are simply not there. So when the Supreme Court said, look, the February 10th deadline is no longer valid, I think a lot of us heave a sigh of relief for obvious reasons. Nigeria is grossly underbanked in even advanced climes. You don't bring a policy like this and then give it a limited time. In the UK, where currently there is a currency swap, it's taken a minimum of 2 years for the old currency to be phased out that had the picture of the Queen. For the new one to exist side by side, a minimum of 2-3 years. And in the UK, you'll be amazed the number of banks there in the UK. Over 350 banks, not branches. What do we have here back home? How many branches? When we had the banking consolidation under Saludo, we had 25 strong banks. Now with the microfinance banks, with other institutions like that, how many do we have? 50, 70? I don't know. But look at it, for a nation of 200 million people. Take a state like Kano, which I know very well, has been my home state. Kano has 44 local government, the biggest in terms of local government in the country. Now, out of this 24, only 22 have banks. And even here in Abuja, the federal capital, if you go to a place like Kwali, only one bank, only one, serving the whole, local government. And there are places, if you go to neighboring, local government, neighboring some West African countries like Niger, like Benin Republic, like Chad. Nigerians, because of this new policy, they are conducting their businesses using the other nations' currencies. For example, if you go to Ilela, Sokoto, close to Niger Republic, they've stopped using the Naira because the Naira is simply not there. So when you take a momentous decision like this, a lot of other stakeholders should be involved. But the Naira design, like it has come to the fore now, was taken in the most utmost secrecy. Even the Minister of Finance was not in the know. So,
but if the minister wasn't in the know, it still had to have happened with the president's approval. Doesn't that mean that he was the one who pushed them aside so he could go ahead with his plan? And that being said, isn't the sabotage that has been alleged, can't it be traced back to the president? Alleged sabotage?
No, you see, the thing is, there are two things here. You understand? Approval by the presidency is okay, no problem with it. But you see, the presidency was even misled about the availability of the new Naira notes. This much is obvious. One of the aides of the president was on air to say, look, the CBN actually misadvised the presidency about the availability. And look, this is a government under Buhari that had vowed to fight corruption and to also checkmate certain financial malfeasance, if you like. And an opportunity like this, mopping up it has happened before under Buhari's watch, way back in 1984. But you see, because you need to plan, make the new Naira notes available enough and service them. Look at what's happening in the banks. Some of the banks, it has come also to the public layer. Actually, in a way, they are actually sabotaging that process. So, coming back to that original question, no rift.
All right.
No rift.
All right. Let's see what the opposition has to say about that. From your point of view, do you see any cracks within the APC?
I've been taking copious notes as my brother has been speaking. You started by asking him, that they are the party in control. And I wanted to ask, in control of what exactly? We have record levels of unemployment. We have record levels of food inflation and headline inflation. We have record levels of debt. We have record levels of poverty. We are now, I think, we have 133 million Nigerians in multi-dimensional poverty. We are the largest country in the world when it comes to ranking out of school children. Kids that don't have access to school. We are the largest country. We have one of the largest internally displaced populations in the world. So when you introduce a segment and you ask my brother that they are in control, again I ask, in control of what? So when you see the incoherence in their government, it simply mirrors the incoherence that they have brought to governance. That's why Nigeria is a failing state. We are not a failed state, but we are a failing state. On every single indices that marks a failing state, Nigeria ticks the box. That's the legacy of the APC. And so if they cannot, fix Nigeria, how do you expect them to fix their party? I heard my brother speaking about corruption just now. Yeah, I think in the dying moments of his conversation. Transparency International just recently released a very funny corruption perception index. They said corruption has flatlined. It had remained stagnant. Countries haven't really improved. But Nigeria fell 4 places, from 150 to 154, out of a country of out of a rank of 180 countries. We are now 154. We've dropped 4 places in 1 year, and yet we are fighting corruption. It's unfortunate that we don't want to address the elephant in the room. We applaud President Buhari's efforts in cleaning up our electoral process by signing the recently amended Electoral Act. But what he didn't legislate for was violence and vote buying. And my party believes very strongly that the APC intends to use violence and vote buying as a way to strong arm their way into remaining in power. Because they have no track record to run on. That is why their candidate is currently distancing himself from the ruling party in government. They have no legacy. They have no track record. They cannot say, we have done this, so vote for us to stay in office. They are distancing themselves from the government, from these government policies. They are running as an opposition party candidate. So it concerns me when President Buhari brings in a policy that is intended to fight corruption, by their own admission. And one of the most corrupt things that I know they are planning to do, in fact, my party has come out to say that the scarcity of Naira is because the APC is hoarding Naira. they want to buy this election. That's my party's official position. And so when you see jubilation within the APC, within the elite in the APC, within their governors and their candidates, that the Supreme Court hasn't stopped it. The Supreme Court has just granted an interim injunction. The suit will be heard on the 15th, thankfully before the elections, because I think it's very important that we place this in context. If the Naira policy is not implemented, they will attempt to buy this election. My candidate believes strongly that even if the policy is good, it's been poorly implemented. You see the fuel queues, you see the suffering in the market, people who don't have cash to buy basic foodstuffs. And that's where our concern is. But we cannot, because Nigerians are suffering, sweep away the reason why that policy was introduced in the first place. It was to protect the sanctity of our democratic process. It was to limit corruption. It was to force people to bring money out of the soakaways that they've hid them. That's why it was implemented. But look at the people protesting most about its implementation. It's the APC government, it's people that have elections to prosecute. It's the elites on their side of the fence. So I don't want us to, we can skirt around whether it's a good policy or a bad policy, whether it's affecting the masses, which it is or not. But we must also put in that mix the clear intent of the ruling party to buy the elections. And that's what this policy was supposed in part to address. We need to put that in context. He says in the comments that El-Rufai made, he wasn't addressing the presidency. The Minister of Information officially responded at the end of FEC to say that he doesn't know what they are talking about. They are not aware of any cabal. The presidency has responded to that allegation. So it's not, he went to, before the primaries, their candidate went to Ogun and insulted the president because he was frustrated. When this policy was implemented and he saw the effect it was having on his slim chances, he went to the same Ogun, and the language he used in Ogun. Let's not play politics. We know what's happening. The APC is in disarray. They are pushing for the postponement of the elections. Former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, is warning of a coup. That's what the APC is doing. They have failed. They know that a referendum will be held on the 25th of February, and they are running scared. That's what this chaos is about. And I just want to urge Nigerians to remain steadfast. The Electoral Act gives every Nigerian the power to kick a poorly performing government out of office. And on the 25th, I urge all Nigerians to come out, not just to kick them out because they have failed and don't deserve to continue ruling, but to look to prosperity and peace and progress and vote in the PDP on the 25th of February.
All right, that's fair enough. Before we move ahead, I don't know if you want to respond to that, but before you do, just a quick fact check. There seems to be a misconception with the Corruption Perception Index. Nigeria actually went up 4 places, but it is not because the country is doing better. We actually still have the same record, 24, the lowest that Nigeria has ever scored. So we got 24 again for the year in review. The reason why Nigeria went up is because other countries performed a little bit worse, and so we went up, but we actually didn't improve in the score. So anyway, go on.
A quicker fact check. I'm reading from This Day Live. Nigeria maintained its previous year's record score of 24, but fell from 150 to 154 position out of 180 countries assessed in 2022 ranking. ThisDayLive.com.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think that I noticed that a number of media houses seem to get it wrong, because I was there personally. I've had Transparency International in the studio here, and they've clarified Nigeria actually went up 4 places. But to quote my own sources, you can check out the Cable, you can check out Premium Times, and also the Sun. So I think some persons got it wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not I don't think it's something to celebrate, because we just didn't. Other people performed poorly, so it seemed as though we went up. But according to Transparency International, there is still an issue because we're not making any progress, and it's still a record low score. So apart from that, do you want to respond?
Yeah, well, some of the things he said, certainly I want to respond to them, because some of them is in tandem with the history of sophistry of the PDP. When each time the PDP speaks about the underperformance of the APC, I look at them and I listen to them, and I know they are clearly masters of sophistry. For 16 years, the APC, I mean the PDP, if we choose to go that route, actually was partly responsible for what we have. We cannot detach today from yesterday. When the PDP was dislodged by the APC after 16 years, after they promised to hold onto power for 60 years, but 16 years down the road, they were dislodged, rejected by Nigerians. Why? Because they, more than the APC, because APC came as a response of the underperformance of the PDP. At the time, the nation was earning hugely from oil. The PDP actually midwifed the politics of do or die under Obasanjo. The PDP actually abused and encouraged the abuse of any electoral process. We remember very well the 2007 election that brought in, well, a very, if you like, someone, I mean, a more level-headed president like Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who acknowledged how flawed that election was. But he still became president. Now, if you look at it, at the time the PDP was making a lot of money, it was also borrowing. Don't forget, when APC dislodged PDP in 2015, so many states were not even paying salary because they have exhausted Okonjo-Iweala, the CBN governor at the time, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, one of an imminent meltdown that, look, if we fail to save Okonjo-Iweala, one, that if we fail to save for the rainy day, we're going to have a problem we're having now. And if you look at all some of the things he mentioned about, you will say the APC has spent the last 7 years trying to reverse the rot that it met under PDP. One of which was the obvious corruption. I remember very well when money was exhibited on the floor of the National Assembly. Monies purportedly from the presidency to remove the Speaker of the House at the time, Galina Abba. PDP actually encouraged corruption, and under PDP corruption festered, and a lot of other interests where we remember very well what happened with so many of the, if you remember the PDDF, how it came to the fore just recently as this January, how SPVs were used. Special the accusation up to now, the PDP presidential candidate has not defended himself very well to the satisfaction of most Nigerians. So when you're talking about whether the APC is actually, under APC, we had a situation where the accountant general was exposed and is presently facing, going through the legal process. I dread to imagine what would happen under PDP. It would have been swept under the carpet. Now, if you see the record of the APC, look at what the APC has done. Under the PDP, it was routine for bomb explosion, security-wise. The PDP budgeted for money that the job was not done. We remember very well 300 billion that went down the drain for roads maintenance, roads construction under the PDP. With the current account, we can't forget how much of the arms money budgeted for arms was misused, was shared for the 2015 election. So, if we're looking towards the nation building, you can't even imagine going back to the PDP. And when we say the PDP is a Tower of Babel, there is a discord. Up to this moment, I don't know, and I wish they could put their acts together, mend their faces. But till this moment, the PDP is yet to reconcile. The candidate of the PDP parade himself as a unifier, but here he is, a recalcitrant group of 5 governors on one side. They have thrown spanner in the works, and you are talking of a more complex country like Nigeria, and you look at even the morality or immorality of it all in a nation that is so sensitive to certain the rotation principle, for instance. How do you explain that? You understand? So why would Nigerians want to do that? Vote the PDP after the years of waste, the years of the locust, the years of the rot. For 16 years, the PDP failed to lay the necessary infrastructure. Look at the record of APC, for example, it has managed to lay down infrastructure nationwide, roads network. Look at the East-West, the second Niger bridge. For years, for 40 years, when we had money, every year there will be a symbolic attempt that we will finish the second Niger bridge. Monies will be budgeted and they will simply disappear. So my good friend here, he raised some points which are, given the track record of the PDP, they are completely invalid. They cannot stand. So yes,
there has been improvement from the APC to the PDP to the APC government.
We've spent these years reversing the rot that we met. For example, now look at the retooling of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Of course, we no longer have a situation where territories were annexed, foreign flags actually hoisted, and republics declared. Republics declared. Under PDP, we had a situation, the ancestral home of the Chief of Defense Staff was annexed by insurgent elements. The residence of Bade, the late Chief of Defense Staff, in Mubi, in Adamawa, was annexed by terrorists, insurgents. They declared a republic there. And his home was the presidential residence of the leader of the insurgent there. That is no longer. Of course, we have in the Northwest, especially after the downgrading of the insurgent elements, which at the time they reigned supreme, they were routinely sacking military installations. Remember in 2014, the insurgent element walked into Maiduguri, sacked one of the most fortified military installations you can think of, the Giwa Barracks, and freed captives there. And then they sauntered again into the Air Force Base, decapitated some planes, and then simply disappeared into thin air, free there. That was under PDP as recently as 2014. Of course, after their downgrade and the renewed commitment, you cannot imagine the rot that has been the lot of the Nigerian Armed Forces until the Buhari regime came. Beginning with the retooling. Look at the Nigerian Air Force, for example, now. With the purchase of the Tucano jets, it has helped tremendously. Of course, we're not there. We are not there yet. We have a long way to go. Because why insecurity has lingered? Because look at the sheer numerical inadequacy of the Nigerian security apparatus put together. Plus minus, all of them. Nigerian police, Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Army, everything. Civil defense put together, they're not up to 1 million. For a nation of 200 million. The United Nations will commence one policeman to 400 people, or thereabout. What do we have now? The Nigerian Armed Police is in the neighborhood of 400,000. Out of that, 15% is devoted to VIP protection. VIP protection, banks, diplomatic cycle, you name them. And then the rest in a state like Niger State. Niger State is about twice the size of the entire Southeast. In Niger State, we have less than 2,000 policemen. For a state, there are so many ungoverned places. The APC is trying to reverse that. Recruit more personnel, and this is what the presidential candidate of the APC is promising. That look, we're going to improve on security. First, we're going to boost the strength. Then we're going to rely on technology. We have Nigerians, indigenous in Nigerians, who have developed certain, if you like, the recorded breakthroughs in technology. There's one young Nigerian now who designed a drone that's 6 feet. They can go to nooks, to rocks, to caves, seek body-seeking drones, determine if there are people there, record, and it can go 24/7 because it has developed a system that as the drone flies, it recharges itself. So what are we talking about now? With that, you can reverse the 16 years that the PDP failed to plan for nation building. The PDP was more occupied with, especially under its imperial leader, on handpicking successors, on pursuing a third-term, fourth-term agenda. So when you look at all of this, you put the PDP on one hand and the APC on the other hand. Nigerians, they know the difference. Of course, this latest currency swap has, in a way, which the PDP is celebrating because they think they have seen, they've seen their Achilles heel now. We're going to drive this, we're going to set. But you see, the APC, the PDP candidate, Really, if you look at it, where is his constituency actually? Where is he going to boast? Why is he going to get the votes? We're talking about votes here with the G5 on one side alone, and then with his immediate constituency, the Northeast, being controlled 50-50 by the APC. He's already having problem with some of the governors, even under PDP. So you look at it, Nigerians we're not dumb. We've not forgotten so soon how the years of the PDP has brought us to our present, which the APC has been trying to reverse.
Right. Let's quickly hear.
I have to very quickly respond.
Yeah, we'll get to you, but then after you respond, we'll move on to the next phase of the topic.
My brother spoke a lot about sophistry, and he comes on here and puts out facts he cannot. He will be unable to verify. Let me start with one. You mentioned 300 billion naira. When was 300 billion naira ever budgeted in Nigeria for works? I'm happy to cede time for you to answer that. If you're not coming here to push propaganda, where was 300 billion naira ever budgeted for works? Because I have the works budgets from 1999 to 2023. So I would love for you to tell this audience,
go on, I'm just
pushing propaganda or stuff you pick off the gossip magazines. Don't come on credible platforms like this to push propaganda. Again, you said it was only during the PDP tenure that flags were hosted by bandits. Was it my imagination that it was reported that Boko Haram was occupying territory in Niger State? Or was it the imagination of the governor of Niger State, who came out on national television to cry out that Boko Haram is hoisting flags in villages in Niger State? And by your admission, that is an indicator of failure. By your admission, you said faction within a party mean you cannot govern. But you spent almost 10 minutes talking about a cabal and faction within your party. That was your intro. You know, I wish we would be able to come in here and focus on issues. You know, I cannot believe we're in 2023 and anybody is talking about 16 years of PDP. When the PDP took over power in 1999, Nigeria GDP was about 0.5. That was our growth rate. You are talking about the locust years. The locust years were the military years. It has only been mirrored by the APC's own locust years, super locust years. That's why we say that we have done it before, because when we came into office in 1999, we moved in 3 short years our GDP from 0.5% to 15.2%. We did not make excuses. We did not blame the military. We did not chase shadows. We rolled up our sleeves and we got to work. That's what we did. And if you have been unable to do it in 8 years, then please exit the stage so that we can do it, because we know how to do it and we have done it before. And Atiku was a part of the team that did it in 1999, and he's telling you that he can do it again. You spoke, you talked about a savings culture, that the PDP was warning about savings. It's your party leaders that took the PDP and President Jonathan to court at the time. You guys took us to the Supreme Court, and can you see how hypocritical it is? We wanted to save. You took us to court so that we don't save, and then you come 8 years later to accuse us of not saving. And we're talking about sophistry here. The thing about these problems, I want to speak about my candidates and what he's going to do. The thing about these problems, for instance, is that they are not new. Nigeria's insecurity problems are not going to be solved by throwing money at it or just recruiting people like my brother suggests. It's a structural problem, and Atiku's plan is to restructure the police force and devolve policing powers down to the states so that they are responsible for their local policing and local security needs, while the military is focused on their core mandate of protecting Nigeria's territorial integrity and focusing on existential threats to our corporate existence as a country, like Boko Haram. That's what Atiku wants to do. It's not rocket science. It's just a plan that he has been pushing for almost 30 years, since the 1995 Constitutional Conference that Abacha convened. He has been pushing restructuring for almost 30 years. And he's saying, look, you guys have tried all these things. They haven't worked. Why don't we try it my way? So, we can come here and just throw big brats and say, you failed and I failed. But, I won't sit here and allow you to rewrite history. And I would wish, as we go into elections in a couple of weeks, Nigerians anybody who listens to this conversation should be able to make a determination about whether they want to continue with a government that will only give excuses, or they want to try the hands of someone who has done it before and who is saying that he can do it again. So again, I urge, I will keep on saying it. In 2 weeks' time, please, Nigerians, come out to vote. You will see attempts to buy your vote. Please resist it. You will see attempts to intimidate you with violence. Please resist it. Come out and vote for Atiku and the PDP so that we can get Nigeria working again.
All right. You're done there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm done. I didn't want to talk about the Air Force that just bombed civilians because accidents happen. But when he harps about the Air Force and technology, are we joking? We are facing one of the greatest security threats in the world, in Boko Haram, and we're talking about high school projects. We should use a high school project that a boy has developed a toy that can go into a cave. That's going to solve our security problems. Are we joking?
Right.
It's clear that there isn't an understanding of the gravity of these problems. It's very, very clear from this conversation.
Right. Just because you brought it up, let me just a quick follow-up. When you talk about restructuring all the way down to the security forces, ideally, how long do you think that would take?
Atiku was asked this question when he met the Guild of Editors in Lagos. My candidate doesn't run from live engagement with people and doesn't assign projects or questions to his aides to answer. He was asked this question directly, and he says he already has executive bills ready to go from day one. He understands that it's not a process that any president can push alone, because we're talking about constitutional amendments. So he needs the buy-in of the National Assembly and the state assemblies. And he's saying it's not just enough to have these bills, because they can be turned back by the National Assembly or turned back by the state governors. It's having the bills, having the vision, but most importantly, having the political will and clout to push them through from the National Assembly to the state assemblies and back to his desk. So if you're asking me when, the executive bills will be submitted as soon as he's inaugurated on 27th of May, I think it is. How long it will take? I think I saw a quote saying about 6 months. We are hoping we can even do it better, because we believe we'll have a National Assembly that is wholly PDP and governors who buy into our candidate vision as well.
All right, that's fair enough. We've spoken about some issues within the APC, so let's talk now about those within the PDP.
Do we have to?
We have to balance it out, And I think a lot of people expected that after 8 years of the APC, there will be little or no issues. There will be some sort of, after being 8 years out of power, it's going to be definitely nobody needs to tell you that you need to get back in. So that being said, we always have to, get updates on the G5 governors. Governor Wike, who's fond of telling others to relax about his choice or their choice, said, I think as the last time I can remember, he said he has instructed the people of Rivers State on how they should vote and how they should move, and he never said that he was going to make it a public announcement. What do you make of insinuations or accusations that he's actually now and his members are fully behind the APC presidential candidate? And also, that being said, you're the deputy director on polling and on
voter intelligence. Yeah.
So we have to also go into that realm. Over the last couple of days, there's been discussions here and there about some polls, and interestingly, most of those polls tend to put your candidate third or nowhere near victory. So what do you make of these polls? Like he said, whilst speaking, he said the pathway to an Atiku victory is slim or non-existent because the Northeast is divided. G5 governors and all that. So that being said, is the PDP ready? You know, is it? What's the momentum like? Has it doused because of these issues, or are they going to have no effect at the end of the day?
So I'll take the G5 question before I speak on polling, because polling might take a while to talk about. I think it's unfortunate the position that my governor, my leader, Governor Wike, has taken. Like you rightly said, Nigeria's problems are so huge. You would think that everybody would put aside personal ambitions or interests or grouses or grievances and just focus on getting Nigeria working again. Unfortunately, he has been able to rise to the occasion. I think we hear rumors that he's actually even supporting the APC presidential candidate, which is, it boggles the mind. I don't believe that's possible, and maybe that's why he cannot come out to publicly make such a statement. But the good thing about data, good thing about science, and my job especially, is that you see the problems, and your job is to find a route around it. So when you talk about a pathway, the pathway to our electoral success goes around the G5 governors and their states. It's, in our heads we pretend they don't exist. And the question we asked ourselves is, how do we ensure an electoral victory if the G5 governors either go towards Labour or go towards the APC? And we have found that pathway. In fact, most unbiased observers of the campaigns will realize or would have noticed that the campaign with momentum 2 weeks away from election is the PDP campaign. And we just finished national polls yesterday. I conducted them personally, and I can tell you, I'll tell my brother for free, we are not worried about the APC. APC is not a problem. Tinubu is not a problem. I think his public appearances are limited as they have been, and his public statements have damaged his candidature irreparably. His inability to form a consensus, an elite consensus within his own party, is showing in the polls. He's competing with Obi in the southwest, and he has been able to break ground in the northeast and northwest, which he needed to do to stand any chance. So Tinubu isn't in the conversation. So again, to my G5 governors, the PDP is a family. I always talk about how built into our DNA is conflict resolution. We were formed in the shadow of the military. Right now, we are standing in the shadow of the ruinous APC government and the threats that they may be in office for another 8 years. So I would urge them to come together. We will win without them, but it's a difficult task we have, and every single vote will count because of this new electoral act. Every single vote counts. So again, I'll urge them to set aside, like I said, personal grievances or hurts or slights, and just focus on the higher calling of rescuing Nigeria and getting it working again. That's what I urge. On the recent polls that came out, I think the only credible poll I've seen in this election cycle, obviously outside our internal poll that we haven't released, is the ANA poll. It's a realistic poll, it's conservative, and it actually tracked progress from, I think, September up until either late December or January. And our polls aligned with that, but have now shown significant movement. The next year poll that came out is funny. I know Patrick Okibo III. He's a highly respected person, but unfortunately I don't think he's a pollster, and the polls he put out sort of like give credence to that. He did face-to-face interviews. The first poll he did was of 12 states with a sample size of 2,000. That was rightly lampooned because it was not worth the paper it was written on, and so he improved upon it, I think, in his estimation, by putting out a higher sample, 3,000 respondents, by doing a national poll. The first one was just rural respondents, this one was urban and rural. But again, he makes the mistake of saying, look, he's going to be polling at fixed points, because that's what the face-to-face surveys mean. You cannot go to every ward. And even if you go to every ward, you cannot be at every location where all the voters are. So you are in fixed locations across the states, polling limited people. So it's only people that come past you at the point where you are, you can poll. So that's not a sample of the voters register. That's just a sample of people who you happen to see on the day. And it's why it is, you can tell it's not reflective of reality. The STARS poll is slightly different because I'm a statistician and I like what they tried to do. Again, their poll was widely off. It's clear that they didn't have baselines to check, and they didn't audit the calls they were making, which is why they are projecting that Peter Obi will have 37%, and then if you add Atiku's votes and Tinubu's votes, it barely meets up with Peter Obi's votes. It's totally unrealistic. But what was interesting, what they did, they tried, all our polls show a large bank of undecided voters. So they tried to allocate those undecided voters by using a probit regression model. So it sort of feeds characteristics of voters, determines it, feeds it into the model, and then when it identifies in the undecideds, it says, look, if you are short, you are fat, you are tall, you are short, you are Ishan, you are Edo, or whatever, you are likely to vote left, right, or center. So that's what they tried to use to allocate the silent voters. So I looked at their methodology. It was an interesting idea, but they really didn't implement it properly. So it's really their first poll. So I don't want to be too harsh on them. I think our political process needs a lot more science. So I'm sure as they refine their model and their polling system, they'll get a little bit more accurate.
All right, that's fair enough. So, Mr. Ali, perhaps you'd like to respond to the same question. From your perspective as the ruling party, the PDP ought to be your biggest threat. With the issues they're having, do you still see them as so? And also the polls, and I asked them about, the same can be said for your candidate. I think most of these polls seem to put the Labour Party candidates ahead. I wonder what your thoughts are on that also.
They say the tests of the pudding is actually in the eating. People can sit and conduct polls, like you said. You look at the methodology, and sometimes the sample population is actually not representative of the entire voters registered. For once, I think here we are almost on the same page, you understand, given the methodology adopted. When ANA polls, which in the past I have said, notwithstanding what they did in 2015, 2019, and even before then 2011. But you see, you look at ANA polls, it's one of the most, especially the last one conducted, when the sample, I don't know, but I think people using phones, you look at it, it's not actually representative. But all said and done here, like I said, look, you see, the test of the pudding is actually in the eating. If polls, for example, the way they are done now, put especially the Labour candidate, I find that absolutely ridiculous. Who are the respondents? Put in because one upside, it's okay, but like people say, they tell them, even those who are sympathetic to the Labour candidate, they say, look, there are no polling units in cyberspace. You have to go out there, do the work. Now, if you look at it, even barely the two leading candidates, I will put my own candidate ahead. Look at the optics, for example. We have 22 governors, we have the controlling both chambers of the assembly, we have the largest number of state legislators. So on that alone, you will say, how would that is reflective of who is actually a front runner? But you see, especially people who put some candidates ahead of others, I think they are being primed for heartbreak, especially the LP candidate. They are being primed for a heartbreak, because if you look at it here, really, like the ANAP, even the next poll, you look at it and then you begin to wonder how truly representative is that. If you take a sample population of 1,000 people using phone, that is for the ANAP poll. And the ANAP poll, the council of ANAP is a family affair. All of them from one family. How reflective is it of the diversity of the Nigerian nation? And then how can you use something as simplistic as using something that is not founded in science? Because Ahmadin is Ahmadin, Ali is Ali, and Aneni is Aneni, then you think we're going to vote along certain solidarity, ethnic or religious? I don't know if that it makes any scientific something. So my own, even in that, even advanced climes, where people you think you have to look at so many factors, variables come to play. Exposure to information, even social standard, social class, what you understand, before you can have something as accurate, and you give a margin of error. So for you to be very emphatic, then you know that this thing fought flat on his face, and then you know they also can be tweaked, and then they can be rigged, and this is exactly what's happening. So I don't fear the polls conducted so far, putting a candidate or a distant third or a close second, and then putting others. No, what I always say is the test of the pudding. Don't forget that most of these things appeal to people who are exposed to certain media products. For example, television, social media, but a large, up to this moment, most of the world, take for instance the region I come from, the Northwest. We have over 22 million registered voters. Nationwide, we have 92 million registered voters. Now, if you go to the Northwest, most of the people are rural dwellers. I'm not saying the young people, Gen Z, millennials, who have access to smart devices, to the internet, they're exposed to certain media products that are very new. Their source of media service is largely cyber, digital, but there are also a large number of faithful voters who cannot be reached by some of these things, who then they have decided they are traditional. For example, when I see the projection by the PDP about the Southeast, the Southeast has been traditionally PDP, but with Labour now in the fray, you understand, it's going to eat deep into that. And for it to make any conclusive, say, look, these people already, they've been traditionally loyal to the PDP, but they've not, the PDP has not compensated them in equal measure. You understand? So all this will come to play, certainly. So I don't see all these polls really, especially in the 2023 election, because the 2023 election is not going to be like it used to be. You understand? Dependent, it's a make or mar kind of thing. It will either break, explode certain myths, or cement certain new realities. That's a thing about 2023 election. Yes.
Right, so the other question is, do you still see the PDP as your biggest threat?
Well, the PDP is about the only that will come the distant second, because the PDP has navigated it's the oldest political party, for example. It's the oldest since 1999. The other parties,
PRP, I think.
The PRP has been there, but it has never controlled even state power.
Okay.
You understand? It has maybe one or two legislators at the center. I mean, federal legislators, maybe a senator or reps members. Yes, I know that. But soon after they got into the National Assembly, they actually retraced their steps back to their former political parties. So the PDP is not really, it's not a threat to the APC. It's never been a threat to the APC. But what I'm saying is this: look, yes, the PDP may have they thought what is happening now, the seeming rift, quote unquote, in the APC because of this currency swap, and because of fuel shortage, and because of my candidates. That is the APC candidate. He is the man who doesn't shy away from, if you like, rocking the boat to make some people comfortable. He is the sort that will express his opinion. He will go to the extra mile to rock the boat, not especially when he perceives there is injustice, like he has done now twice, and we've seen results. Now, the PDP, unless it puts its house in order, like I said, it's a Tower of Babel. There is a great discord in the AP. Ours is out in the open. You understand? And ours is not really even by governors, by people who are holding into executive position, is by elements who are antagonistic. They are not even members of the APC, but these are power brokers. They have access to federal power. They have ears in places where it matters, and this is exactly what's happening. And they are the ones who are determined, because they failed to have their candidate fly the flag of the APC. They are now, you know, bent on actually rocking the boat.
Right. Just to, continue on that train of thought.
Yeah.
You said your candidate, says it as it is. There were some comments he made recently, and I wonder to what extent that is an indictment on the party he's running, under which he's running, where he says they made they met the dollar at 200, is 800. They don't know it. Then they don't know what they are doing. Stuff like that. Who was he referring to? Because
the CBN.
Under
Right
which
away.
government?
The CBN governor was appointed by the PDP.
Yeah,
And on that, no, what I'm saying is that, look, you have to get this very clear. You understand? The Buhari regime, Buhari, you want to understand Buhari is a systems person. When he got in here, and when he got the presidential mandate, he met a lot of people appointed by the party or the dislodged PDP. He let them be. Emefiele is one of them. But Emefiele's monetary, especially monetary policies, at most they've been flip-flops. This one moment is only under, and we've been warned. Now the president has been gracious enough to allow some level of consistency, which some element took advantage of and mismanaged the nation's currency management. What I mean currency management vis-a-vis the foreign reserve. And because we've met an literally empty treasury, because you can't, the nation's currency is as strong, is function of production. Sometimes you don't have 3-4 different exchange rates. The former CBN governor, Sunusi Lamido Sunusi, has won severally. But somehow, just like the way the president was tongue into approving the currency redesign, which we welcome. We absolutely welcome this. But we had 8 years to do that. Why now? And because the president is well-intentioned, he perceives, I mean, if you like, anything that will be for the better of the country, he's one for it, including inadvertently putting his party in peril. But now look at it, he has reconsidered. I mean,
well, how is he putting the party in peril?
The policy, I say inadvertently, because this policy now, which a former PDP stalwart in the CBN, who was appointed by the CBN, and which we think by these monetary policies is actually impeding projection, making it difficult for the APC to go home to victory.
All right. We'll allow, I'm sure Mr. Hausa has something to say about that PDP stalwart former anyway. But before that, we'll go on a short break. Before that, although I will note that it does seem as though you're finally drawing the lines. Is it the CBN governor versus your candidate? Is that what we're seeing?
CBN governor is an interested, he wanted to run for president.
All right.
And he couldn't. When he tested the waters, he was hoodwinked or bamboozled into thinking that he can win the presidential ticket.
All right, so we'll talk more about
and the
it.
grace of the president, actually, because he's so gracious, he allowed him to remain there.
Right, we'll delve further into that after the break. I say we'll also be right back.